First up, we talk about the Tulane Green Wave, and of course, football now back in camp, getting ready for the upcoming season. It will be a full slate of games. Very encouraging news on that front. Of course, things couldn't be looking more up for the Tulane football program with what they've accomplished the last 2 years and with the kind of players they're bringing into the program and the coaches on staff as well. Joining us now to talk about football and all athletics, the outstanding athletic director at Tulane University, Troy Dannen. And Troy, listen, I appreciate the time. These are strange times, aren't they?
It is strange indeed, and I appreciate your optimism, about playing 12. We got 12 scheduled. Boy, I sure hope we're playing 12. But it's almost, you wake up in the morning and you're bright and energetic and full of optimism, and as news breaks during the day, at the end of the day, you're saying, boy, I sure hope we play. And then you wake up again tomorrow and do the same thing. But really, really odd times, clouded by the fact that we're 4 days into camp. And normally this is a time when we're really celebrating and enthusiastic. Meanwhile, we're watching a little something else right now.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, this is just amazing to watch. It's fluid. What we are talking about today could change dramatically in a week's time. That's pretty much the way everything's operating right now, but the plan is good, and no one's at fault here. You can't fault anyone for the plans that they have with their programs or the conferences and what they've chosen to do, and several have chosen different models. I like the fact that the American has not gone the route of conference games only, and here's why. I see what's happened on some other fronts, and there have been games lost within state. Teams that are, or schools that are an hour or 2 hours away, and to me, that's a head-scratcher. Don't really get it. In the case of Tulane, you got Southeastern coming here. That's a less than an hour trip. It's a payday for them. It's an intriguing game and a nice matchup, and I'm frankly happy that Tulane plays people like this, such as Southern, such as Nichols, and so forth in recent years. And on the other hand, you see LSU losing its game with Nichols, which is really unfortunate for Nichols, a payday. So I like the fact that the American is allowing Tulane and its member schools to go ahead and play its schedule as scheduled, if possible.
And I don't know this for a fact, Ken, but I was never surprised with the SEC's decision, nor some of the other leagues to back up a little bit, because from an economic standpoint, having fans in the stands is a different financial animal at LSU than it is at really or at any SEC school than it is really at most of the American. So I understand pushing back and doing everything you can maybe to get to the point where you can get closer to capacity with fans. But, I think all of the group of five will, Conference USA, the Sun Belt, and the American, certainly all together, playing the 8+4 model. It's football as normal. As Greg Stewart, our team doc, and he also is putting together the return to play protocols for the AACs, has said, you either play football or you don't play football. And if it's safe to play game 1, it's safe to play game 12. So we might as well continue to play 12, and hopefully we get them all in. A lot of FCS news going on today, and I sure hope Jay and I have talked probably 10 times over the last month and a half. But we both sure hope that Southeast Louisiana game comes off as scheduled.
Yeah, JRT's a good guy, and they have a good program there. Visiting with Troy Dannen, the athletic director at Tulane University. The announcement of adding games at Hattiesburg against Southern Miss on the 26th of September. Of course, prior to that, at South Alabama to open their new Hancock-Whitney Stadium on September the 12th, I think are very positive developments. First of all, it's not like you lost a home game. Those were 2 road games you had scheduled in those slates to begin with. Secondly, these are good regional matchups. Even though fans probably aren't part of the equation, it's a very easy trip to make for the football team, and also attractive, I think, to fan base for watching because of the nature of South Alabama's young growing program and the long-time rivalry between Tulane and Southern Miss, which we saw resurrected in the bowl game last year, but hadn't happened for a while. And as somebody that did Tulane games for years and has covered Tulane for many years, that was a special rivalry. So to see the Golden Eagles and the Green Wave getting together once again, that means a lot to a lot of people in this region.
Ken, it's interesting you say that, because since I got here, it feels like, we want to identify with Memphis, or we want to identify with Houston as rivals in this league. But we really identify, historically with Southern Miss, maybe more than any other school. So it was good to play them in the bowl. And then, as we schedule the game, and we have in the next, I think through 27, we're playing South Alabama 4 times and Southern Miss 4 times. And I like the idea of, if we're going to play group of 5 schools in the non-conference, I like the idea of playing where our fans can actually go and be a part of it. I like the idea of playing, in areas where, frankly, we're recruiting really, really well. I know Keon's really looking forward to going back, into the state of Mississippi and Hattiesburg to play this year. But the fact that New Orleans Parish right now is still in phase 2, unlikely, for us at least to have fans. The South Alabama game is one thing because they're opening their stadium, and we had a guarantee with them out in the future. So basically, this became a home and home rather than a one-game bye. But with Southern Miss, my druthers aside, I would have argued we won the bowl game. We're going to play the home game. But the fact that we may not be able to have fans in the stands, Southern Miss giving us 1,000 tickets for the game. We really scheduled the game because it may be the best opportunity for our fans to see us if things don't change in Orleans Parish.
I think it's just a win-win across the board, and it makes all the sense in the world with what you just said. And if fans can go there and see the game, it's just another plus. And you mentioned, of course, yesterday that fans are not likely to be at Yulman Stadium this year, but that also is fluid. That could change based upon what transpires in the state over the next 3 weeks, really over the next 2 periods, as to when Governor Edwards makes his announcements, correct?
Governor Edwards and the mayor. Orleans Parish, we're going to be a little bit different, I think, than certainly LSU when it comes to looking at fans. We're very restrictive at this point in time, and our announcement was we're going to look every 10 days in advance of a home game just to see where we're at from a phase standpoint, see where we're at from the ability to get fans in and make decisions 10 days out, as we go through the season. Assuming we do play, I sure think things are going to look better in November or different in November than they do in September. So hopefully we can build the bigger crowds, and this program's getting to the point where we do have a little ticket demand, we do have more interest, and the guys, I can't speak enough for one how hard they've worked in the summer with all the uncertainty, but the commitment you watch them give both on and off the field. I want people there to watch them. This isn't about driving millions of dollars in revenue. This is a fact. These guys work hard. These guys have represented all of us really, really well. And having fans in the stands, particularly their family and friends in the stands, it's important to them. So it's also important to me.
260-1061, the number to call. That's 260-1061. Visiting with Troy Dannen, athletic director at Tulane University. With regard to the football program, Willie Fritz has been everything you hoped he would be, and maybe then some. As I watched the progression of this program and having been around it as long as I have to observe what has transpired, it's been a very tough place to win consistently. Coach Fritz has this program positioned to do just that. It's pretty obvious based upon the quality of the player that they're recruiting. It's clearly a cut above where they have been, at least on a consistent basis, and also the coaching staff that he's put together. But then again, it shouldn't have come as a great surprise given his track record. Everywhere he's been successful. He's been consistent as a person and consistent as a coach, and that's kind of what we're seeing here, correct?
Everybody wants to brand coaches as this coach is a blank. This coach, he ran the option at Georgia Southern. He'd never run the option in his career. Ran the option at Georgia Southern because that's what you do at Georgia Southern. And what Willie is a guy who adapts to what it takes to win, adapts to the talent that he has, and so he's run different offenses. I really like what he's doing right now is with Will Hall as the offensive coordinator. It's gotten to be a little more traditional than it was probably when he first got here, but our talent level's a lot better. And I think when he walked in, we had been recruiting, and maybe we had a Conference USA talent level, other than it's Conference USA, but we need to get a talent level to compete against Cincinnati and UCF and Memphis and Houston and the top 25 teams that we're going to see in the American. And Willie's and his staff have just done a phenomenal job of getting better players. And they obviously have a history long before coming to Tulane of developing players. But when you start with a higher level of talent and you continue to develop those players, we're seeing the results in the field. Just as an example, I think we have the best running back stable in the league by far, and our offensive line has come light years from where it was when Coach first got here. So, we're walking into every Saturday right now knowing we have the talent to win a game, talent to win every game we play on Saturday, and that was. When I talk about goals, maybe that was the first goal, Ken, was get to the point where you expect to win. Get to the point where you have the talent and the training and you expect to win, and I feel like we're there right now.
260-1061 to join us. Of course, football is just one sport. When you look at the horizon, basketball, Ron Hunter is doing a good job in recruiting. One player that opted out because of this virus and was a grad transfer, but by and large, again, the quality of the player improving that's coming in here. Lisa Stockton just got an international player to commit, which obviously should help from Italy. The baseball program, I think we're all massively disappointed because clearly that program had turned the corner, was off to a tremendous start when the virus hit. So overall, I'd have to say, being objective, that things are trending upwards with Tulane University athletics.
Well, I feel really good about where we're at. And people don't think about it. Mark Boris will have a top 15 tennis team. It's probably the best tennis team maybe we've had, in decades here. So across the board, I feel like our teams are obviously competitive in the league, but we're getting to the point where we can be competitive nationally. And I go back to, obviously I came in here right at the end of 2015. But the support of the administration, the support the board has given us from to invest in coaches, pay a competitive and a salary that we keep our good coaches, but to invest in every aspect of our programs. That's the key. Money doesn't buy success. If it did, Ohio State and Texas would win everything every time. But what money does do is it gives you the resources and ability to at least line up and expect to be competitive, and we're at that point. So you give a lot of credit to President Mike Fitz. You give a lot of credit to our board in investing in athletics. When we made the decision to move to the American, I don't know at the time if everyone realized it, but it was a significant commitment to the future of athletics. Our new TV deal just is starting this year, hopefully starting this year, but significant revenue, multiple times the television revenue that we would have had if we were back in Conference USA. So, I think everyone has put Tulane in a position to be successful, and I'm glad to see that our coaches are from a one-loss standpoint, and certainly from an academic standpoint, are showing that we can be successful in every respect.
504-260-1061. If you have a question for Troy Dannen, to Metairie, where Stan awaits us. Hi, Stan. Thanks for calling. Welcome to the show. You're on with Troy Dannen.
Thank you, Kenny. Good show, and thank you, Troy, for being on tonight with Kenny. Let me ask you, as far as the sports situation, with you have Major League Baseball, you have hockey now, you have NBA, you had NASCAR, you had UFC, and PGA the last couple months. However, no fans, but the games are going on and they're playing, and that's a very important factor here. Wouldn't it just clear the air and just say, and as far as the NFL, Troy, you mentioned, about the mayor and everything else, just say, look, we're playing the games probably without fans. We'll look at it in mid-October, maybe the end of October, and maybe we won't have fans to the bowl game, and I'm sure Tulane will be in their third bowl game in a row this year. And maybe that might be the only opportunity that fans get to go, but at least they're competing, and that's the main thing. And I also throw that may be the answer for the LHSAA. I know, although most schools, a lot of schools, their families are the only ones that they occupy a big big portion of the attendance, but at the high school level. But I think if the colleges just said, look, no fans this year, we'll look at it the middle of October, we can go forward, I think that would help a lot, and I think the games would go on. And Kenny, you can tell Troy this, he was talking about the rivalry with Southern Miss. I remember going up to Hattiesburg years and years ago, and Kenny, I know you remember the game, and you might even have been working at that game where Tulane was, I believe, 3-1 or 4-0 or 3-0, and they were playing Southern Miss, and at halftime, now if I remember or something, they put in a freshman quarterback, and of course, that was Brett Favre. And Tulane had a lead, and when they put Favre in, they ended up winning the game, and the rest is history as far as Brett Favre had a great career and everything else. And anyway, I appreciate y'all, and I'll hang up and listen.
Okay.
Thank you.
A lot of memories in that series. Thanks, Dan, for the call. A lot to chew on there, Troy. But with regard to waiting and making decisions, clearly that's what's taking place. But he did bring up one other issue I was going to ask you about, too, the LHSAA. You housed a state championship game this past year. It was very well received with Archbishop Rummel and Catholic, and you house high school games on an infrequent basis, and they've been very well received. And of course, the schools really enjoy it, too. It's a tremendous venue. What's the future of that? Is there any chance of expanding, knowing full well the neighborhood and the situation that's existed previously?
Well, I mean, I sure hope so. I come from Northern Iowa, where we hosted the semifinals and finals for every class, for every state championship. We had 4 or 5 football games a week because we had a dome facility up there. I love to have high school games. One, I don't think it's any coincidence that our recruiting, from a local standpoint, that it's been ticking up. The more high school games we get in there, I want guys in the city and locally to aspire to play at Tulane and get inside that stadium. Now, that said, this year there's all sorts of complications. We have, Kenny, I don't know if you know this, we have notified the high schools that we're not going to be able to host any games on campus this year, and we won't have tailgate. Even if we do have fans and we do have games, we won't have tailgating on campus this year. There's just a lot of limitations because of what we're trying to do to make sure the student bodies, healthy and safe on campus as well. But going forward, I understand there's an agreement with the neighborhood, and that was long before me. But it does us all good to have high school games in there. It would do us more good if we were able to get city schools from New Orleans proper, from the New Orleans Public District, into the city, or into the stadium rather. And so I'm hoping we're able to do that. We've looked at and we've talked to a couple of promoters about actually doing, maybe a national high school game of the week type. Bringing somebody in from out of state into the stadium and playing one of our local teams. So I think long term, this year may be a little bit of an exception, but long term, we will aspire to continue to grow the relationship with the high schools in that environment. Now, one other thing, Ken, I want to address in the question, and just from what do you look for, or what should you look for? And he mentioned a lot of sports. We feel really good about where Tulane is at right now because we've been able to create this artificial bubble. I know the Saints are staying in a hotel, created an artificial bubble. The NBA is and Major League Soccer have done a great job. Hockey, they've created a bubble where there's no one in, no one out. It's basically a clean room, if you will. Major League Baseball is probably the sport that everyone should track on from a college football standpoint, because Major League Baseball looks a lot more like us. Traveling around the country, there might not be any fans in the stands, but traveling from hotels. And Major League Baseball has struggled some. And so we're all keeping our eye very closely on Major League Baseball because as successful as the NHL and Major League Soccer and the NBA have been, we really compare ourselves more to Major League Baseball when it comes to how are we going to play in this environment.
Final thought, Troy, when you look at the landscape, you took this job understanding the limitations, understanding the lack of success in football, and really in basketball for that matter, as well, and you, I'm sure, did your research and heard the stories. Well, they're not committed to winning from an administrative perspective. Can you dispel that now? Do you have the commitments you need to be successful long-term in athletics at Tulane?
You know what? I'd heard all of that, and when I walked into the interview room, the search was being chaired by a guy who owns the part of the Falcons, and Doug Hertz. I had Joe Glazer, who the Glazer family obviously owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was in my press conference. Obviously Gail Benson sitting right there in the press conference. My first meeting in town when I got here with Tom Benson. When you have ties to those NFL organizations, when I walked in the room and saw who was leading this search and who was committed to this, I knew the commitment was going to be there institutionally. There's no place else in the country where you can boast of three NFL owners that have a stake in the outcome of your program. And I also came to work for what I would tell you is just a phenomenal president. Athletic directors will tell you you don't go to work for schools, you go to work for presidents, because no matter what the resources or the commitment of that you see from the outside, it's that guy you're going to or woman that you're going to work for, that you're going to partner with. Now I've got a great president. So from would I like more? Absolutely. What athletic director doesn't? But from do we have what we need to compete in our league right now? The answer is yes. The only thing we don't have on our side is history. And we have some great history here. But that history, frankly, predates anybody we're recruiting. It predates anybody any student athlete that's in our program right now. And so sometimes, having to teach history in the recruiting process, that's not to your benefit. But we're creating our own history. And so while that may not be with us from the last 5 or 10 years or 20 years for that matter, we're getting to the point where we're building some history of our own. We're making ourselves credible. I see the commitment every day. I don't get told no a whole lot. And now I'm careful about what I ask for, Ken. I don't go ask for all the bullion in Fort Knox, but the things we need to compete, the support from an academic standpoint, the support from an admission standpoint, all those things, we're in a position where we can win in our league, and that's all you can ask.
I do have one more question before I let you get away, and that is the one that I get asked a lot by a lot of people that love Tulane as well. Is there any future foresight, I should say, regarding a new basketball arena? Of course, Fogelman and Devlin Fieldhouse at Fogelman Arena. For lack of a better description, you've done everything you can possibly do with the limitations of the space and the facility. And a lot of people feel strongly that for Tulane to make the next step or take the next step in basketball, you really need a basketball facility that's more suitable. Is that something in the long-range plan?
Well, it's not on my radar right now, and I'll tell you why. Because I've only seen 2 games in there in my 4+ years, where we even came close to filling that building up. I frankly, I know we need to win, but what's going to trigger a facility like that is such great demand, such great interest that whether it be donors or whatever, ticket holders, they're clamoring for it. We're going to have to, that building in some ways is the greatest asset we have. And I've seen the videos when Denny Crum was in here and it could be a huge asset. It should be an absolute terror of a place to play. And as I talked to Ron Hunter when we were recruiting him, the idea of a new gym wasn't on the radar screen. One, I will tell you, it's probably $75 million to build an arena of, let's just say, 7,500 seats. Plus, we don't have land. We're a landlocked institution. But as I talked to Ron, given what he likes to play, the defense he likes to play, the helter-skelter, the fast pace he likes to play, it should be a place that nobody wants to come and play. And we have to make that our advantage. So I would tell you, I don't think in my time here, I can't tell you one recruit that we've lost because of the arena. I can tell you this, the basketball practice facility is as good as there is anywhere in the country. And as Coach Hunter said to me when he walked in, he says, if my guys knew you had this, they would be mad that you weren't winning more. And, so we've got some really good assets. And, 90% of the time when it comes to basketball, we're in that practice facility. We've got one that's as good as there is in the country. The competition arena, we're all committed to that being an absolute pit of a place to play. Something happens down the line, but it's not on my radar, Ken.
He is Troy Dannen, the athletic director at Tulane University. Troy, we really appreciate the time tonight, appreciate the job you're doing, and keep up the good work. Let's all hope and pray that this thing somehow subsides, all these games can be played, and ultimately people can get to go see them as well.
Well, and the last thing, I'd say to everybody, we talk about mask up and doing all the things you're supposed to do in order to play. The one thing we do have going for us right now is in New Orleans, the trend lines are positive. And what's happened in New Orleans is not going to decide whether college football is played or not, but it is a real positive for Tulane and a positive for what we hope to have, which is a full season of 12 and fans in the stands at some point as we go. So, as we tell everybody here, mask up and roll wave.
Troy, thank you. Appreciate the visit.
Thanks, Ken. Good to talk to you.
You got it. My pleasure. Troy Dannen, athletic director, Tulane University.